Now it's time for tip-episodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's Friday episode. I want to talk this week a little bit about this idea that the dental hygiene profession is divided. And I'm not really sure that it is, or if it just seems like it is. So I kind of want to talk through a few things. A lot of this comes on the heels of this last weekend. There was a course that was given in which the speaker was kind of heckled, I guess. It was an online thing, so it was through typing, but they were heckled. And it's not the first time I've seen this happen, in the online courses that are given. People are often, especially when maybe they don't agree, I think it's mostly when they don't agree, that they feel empowered to, be a certain way. And then the optics of all that seems that our profession is divided. And then you go into online, you go into, social medias and things like that. And then there's a question that's posed. One I just saw the other day was about polishing first or not polishing first. And people just get so up in arms. And I think that the issue here is that there's not a lot of people that are active on social media. I think that there are several people that are lurkers like myself. Like we kind of absorb and consume the content, but we're not maybe the ones that are posting or replying or reacting to some of these posts. And I think a lot of it, when you look at, hey, we have all of these 50-50 divisions in dental hygiene, then you think that the whole entire profession is kind of broken. You look at this person that's heckling, you say, oh my gosh, like people can't even get on the same page about CE and things like that. And of course, we do have all these little micro divisions where look at the prophy versus perio rate. I think all of us, or at least the majority of us, know that, man, we should be closer to that 50% perio on the whole. But when we look at the claims that are submitted to the insurance companies, that is definitely not the way that it goes. And I think that part of this division has to do with being right. And being right has to do with power. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm the king, I have all this power and things like that. But it's kind of a power dynamic in a conversation, who's going to one up the other. And the way that you have the power is by being right. So I want to talk about that for just a little bit. And before I do that, I want to start with just a quick, short little story. There was this 19th century British politician. His name was Lord Acton. During his life, he dedicated it to being a historian. He studied all the different facets of life that make people who they are, what makes people tick. They encompassed a wide range, and it led to him buckling down and studying, conversing with other scholars, reading all sorts of books. And at the time of his death in 1902, he was, quote, largely considered one of the most learned people of his age, unmatched for the breadth, depth, and humanity of his knowledge, end quote. He was a really important figure in our history, and it was this man, and you might have all heard this term before, that coined the term, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, you might not have heard it that way. Sometimes you just hear about power corrupts, right? That's kind of like the shortened version of all this. But power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in continuing with our story time, when I first got into the DSO space, and then I started kind of trying to put myself out there a little bit more, I reached out to multiple people to see if I could learn from them, because there's so much to learn, especially if I wanted to go in kind of the pathway that I wanted to go. And I asked these people, fellow hygienists, and they're probably maybe like a decade or so ahead of me, because that's what we're taught, right? Like, hey, you need to go find a mentor. You need to always be learning. Don't stop your learning. And so I started my journey. And so I asked several people, and I won't say this one person's name, but ever since that first time that I met her, she was kind of like in a protectionist mode, like on guard, like you can't really ever get close to this person. And then it kind of exuded this, and years later it ended up being true, but like exuded this, I need to preserve my fame and my power, my notoriety. If I share too much with you, especially if I give you like the details, then you're going to steal it from me and you're going to replace me and all these different things. And that stuff we talked about on the podcast years ago with the whole bullying episodes, in the speaker circuit specifically, where the up and comers were kind of getting bullied by the older ones because they were worried about people stealing their stuff, right? And so it's probably been maybe 12 to 15 years since those days. And this person is still like that. It is incredible. Then, alternatively, you have people like Raphael Rondon, Mr. RDH, as some of you know him. He's been on the podcast several times. From the jump, he was one of those people that he was always willing to pick up a phone or text me. He wanted to chat about concepts, ideas, management techniques. There's a lot of products. So even a few weeks ago, I asked him about some products that he likes. We talk about processes that they've implemented, but also the processes that he's looking to implement. He's always been an open book. Now, it's interesting because both of these people share the similar title and similar roles in the dental hygiene DSO space, which, by the way, is not that big. And so the question is, why did one go in one direction with the power that they were given and the responsibility that they were given? And why did the other person go in the opposite direction? And likewise, though, every other division, we need to take the same kind of concept that we're going to be talking about here. Why are we always on one side or the other? And I think to answer that, we have to look at one Lawrence Kohlberg. He's an American psychologist, which psychology is not my strong suit. It's like math for most people, but he was probably best known for his thoughts on moral development. And that's really important when we talk about this division thing. And I'll try and be quick to explain all of this, but basically he broke this theory he called the cognitive moral development theory, right? So you're developing your moral and the reason why you believe and act in a moral way into three different stages. The first stage is characterized by individualism with a, quote, egocentric point of view. And you can think about this like as kids early on, right? They're, hey, Dad, look at me do this. Look how fast I am. The very much, kind of look at me kind of a person. Very egocentric, very self-centered. In this stage, this individual is only looking for their own interests and then acting to meet their own interests and their own needs. Then, after some time, they progress to level 2. And this level is characterized by having mutual interpersonal expectations, right? So it goes bilaterally both ways. And this stage, an individual acts according to the belief in being good to others and focusing on the characteristics of trust, which again is a two-way street, loyalty, two-way street, respect, two-way street, and gratitude, which can also be a two-way street. They work towards fulfilling the explicit, or maybe sometimes it's an implied contract that they've covenanted with others. So you can think of this as the look at us approach and the teamwork approach. And then in level 3, one acts according to, quote, universal ethical principles that uphold a, quote, moral point of view and do, quote, the greatest good for the greatest number. So you can think of this group as saying, hey, we're not looking at any one person. We're not looking at us even. There's just something that is supposed to be done and we're doing it. So they're the ones that are quietly doing things. They put their heads down, they get to work. They don't need that recognition from other people. They just do it because it's the right thing to do. So how does this tie into our topic today, right? Well, it's simple. So people are progressing through these stages of life, this individualism, right? Doing things for other people in the small group, and then doing what's best for the most amount of people. So they do this, though, they progress through these ones without any sort of time frame, right? It's based on experiences, education, development, but power, let's insert this power button. Power is something that comes and goes depending on circumstance. So wherever you are in this moral development, when power finds you, that's how you utilize it. So if power finds you in stage 1, where you're doing individualism, you're going to leverage that power to do things that are going to help you. Now, if it finds you in stage 2, you're going to leverage that power into helping you help the people that you've made covenants with, that you have loyalty to, et cetera, in your group. And then if it's level 3, then of course you're going to leverage that power to try and do as much good for as many people as possible. So when I think about these two individuals that we talked about before, right? So Mr. Rondon is, closer to that 2 and 3 level of helping other people or helping the greatest number of people, where that first person was really just leveraging their power for their own purposes, right? It's that behavior of an egocentric person. Now, why do I bring these two up specifically out of a group of 200,000+ dental hygienists that we have? I think because by and large, when we look, if we were to zoom out, bird's eye view of, the 200,000 hygienists, I think we have a lot more people in that level 2 and level 3 stage and significantly less than the level 1 stage. But again, part of the characteristics of a level 3 is that you're not really going to hear from them. They're humble. Again, they're the ones that are just doing the good things. Their heads are down in their operatory. They're doing the best to treat their patients. They're just doing the right things for the right reasons. And when we look at the issues in dentistry or maybe even dental hygiene, I think it's really important to look at people's intent. This is going to help us determine where they are on that levels of cognitive moral development theory. Are they only doing prophies and not periotherapy because they're thinking of themselves and the time and the effort it's going to take and they're going to be put out? Or are they going to be doing more periotherapy and prophies because it's the right thing to do? Are they ranting about their dentists because they've had a few bad apples and their feelings are hurt? Or do they think that truly the majority of the 100,000 plus dentists that are out there are like the few that they've encountered? Is the office manager, the owner, whoever's making the rules in that particular office, making decisions based on that third level, like the greater good for not only the clinicians, because that's a really important thing to do. That would be more level 2. It's between them and their clinicians, but now expanding it to level 3, are now they saying this is the right thing to do for our patients, so our clinicians and patients alike? Or are they making rules for just the benefit of themselves? Are influencers are a big part of our culture right now. Are these influencers or those trying to be influencers making contrarian posts, going against all the beliefs that they've ever held for decades because they really believe it? Or are they doing it because it's piggybacking off a popular topic so they get more attention? Or maybe they're being compensated to make certain claims that go against their own personal beliefs. Understanding people's intent is really, really important, especially when it comes down to this division, because this division doesn't always have to happen. I found it easier to forgive people when you realize what stage they're in. So, for example, the office manager, I think it's easier to have a conversation with them, even if they created some kind of a crazy rule, when I understand why they did it. And the reason why that's important for me is because maybe I can pitch them an alternative that gives them that relief that they're looking for, because a lot of times it's just they have so much work that they have to do. They're overstressed and they need relief somewhere. And this rule helps them find that relief. But also maybe I can help them find another way that's not going to cause undue burden on us, on the rest of the team. And then we're all happy in the middle. I'm happy to have conversations with the prophy queen, the prophy king, and learn what's really going on. Because maybe the reason that they're doing so many prophies and not actually doing periotherapy the way that they should be is because they're not getting the clinical support that they need. Maybe they don't have the tools that they need, the physical or mental, emotional tools. Or maybe they just don't know how to have the kind of conversation that it takes sometimes with our patients, especially the tough patients. And it has zero to do with work ethic whatsoever. But I think that's kind of like the cop-out that we always say is like, oh, they're just lazy. And I think it's easier to understand that brash and erratic behavior of some hygienists when you learn how hard their childhood was and how broken they are as human beings. It doesn't make it right. It's never going to make that right, but I think it's easier for people to get past it. That lady should never have heckled the speaker. She never should have been mean to that speaker and done those things that she did. That's never going to be okay. But I think for those of us, especially when we've experienced it enough, it does kind of make it a little bit easier to move on when we understand kind of where they're coming from. And I think as long as the majority of the hygienists are good people, closer to that level 3 again, I think that the hygiene profession is going to be in good shape. I don't think that we are as divided as we are. And I think the people that are making the claims that we're so divided do maybe have an agenda a lot of times. So don't let the noise of like the loudest people change your opinion from what you know to be true, from what you're seeing with your own eyes. And then likewise, don't let social media be your only barometer. I think if we're doing the numbers on it, social media is not representative of the 200,000 plus dental hygienists. There's not 200,000 plus dental hygienists on social media that are constantly weighing in with their ideas. It's probably closer, honestly, to that 5 to 15,000, which is not representative of all of us. And so I think it's really important to kind of keep that perspective. I think that we're in pretty good shape. I do think that there's a lot that we need to do to come together, but I am very encouraged when I see the efforts put forth by so many individuals at the state level, at the local level, doing all they can for their patients, for their fellow hygienists, for their dental communities. I think that we're going to be all right. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
A tale of two hygienists.